The Winnipeg Whisky Festival takes place tomorrow night at the Fairmont Hotel from 7 to 10 o'clock. And for those who don't know much or anything, in my case, about whiskey, I'm joined here at the Winnipeg Free Press News Cafe by Keith Trussler, who is the Glenlivet ambassador, Owen Durham, who is the James ambassador for Canada, and Don Livermore, who is with Hiram Walker and has these beautiful bottles of Weiser here in front of us. So, fellas, I play in a beer league, hockey league, and we drink beer after the games all the time, so I drink a lot of beer. When people ask me about whiskey, I generally don't know what they're talking about. So if I was to go, for people who are going to this thing who don't know a lot about whiskey, what can, I'll start with you here, Don. What should people know about tasting and appreciating whiskey?
Well, with the Canadian whiskey style, we can do lots of things with it. Me being the master blender for the Weiser's distillery, I often say just enjoy a drink. I play beer league hockey just like you do, and after a hockey game, I'd mix it with ginger ale or Coke or something like that over ice or something like that. So it's all about occasion as to when you're drinking whiskey and what level of whiskeys you would like to appreciate as well.
So, Keith, I mean, is it an acquired taste, whiskey?
Yeah, very much so. I think it's kind of a journey that you go throughout your life too, your palate will change over time, and your appreciation of whiskey should grow over the years as you get an opportunity to try more and more different styles. And these kind of festivals are fantastic for people who are new to whiskey because it gives them an opportunity to taste a lot of different styles from a lot of different parts of the world without necessarily having to go out and break the bank on an entire whiskey collection for their homes. So.
Owen, so why don't you tell me how right now I can start gaining an appreciation of whiskey?
Well, the first thing you need to do is start drinking it. And that's exactly because, I mean, a lot of people that have a bit of a whiskey fear, to be honest, they don't really associate whiskey with being a tasty drink or something that they appreciate straight away. Myself, when I got out of college, I went straight into this job. I wasn't much of a whiskey drinker, and I started drinking whiskey, and you learn to love it. You really, really do. And it takes time, and it takes a bit of whiskey to understand what you're tasting, to get an appreciation for the taste. And when you start at the bases, these are a few of our base whiskeys that we have in front of us, and you have to start with these, and then from these you can grow into the older whiskeys, and you can pick up the flavors and the taste that Don would actually create. It's really cool being here with Don. We were listening to him all morning because he's the guy that actually creates all these flavors and tastes in the whiskey. Mm-hmm. We're just the guys that appreciate them, that kind of way. So,
well, why don't you each tell us about the bottles that we have here on the tables? You want to go first?
I think if you were to be a whiskey drinker, I'd actually start at the first one here is Weiser Spice. This is a brand that we developed for the introductory whiskey drinker. I know I was here last year signing up bottles at the local MLCC. In comes a woman into the store. She says, "Oh, I know I don't really drink whiskey, so I'm not really interested." So, well, why don't you try Weiser Spiced? She walked out with 3 bottles later, and she was 53 years old. She was an introductory whiskey drinker, and what we've done with this one is we've spiced it up with vanilla, the world's most pleasing flavor.
So you turned her into a raging alcoholic in a matter of minutes. Congratulations.
Yeah, I think some of them were gifts, but yeah, absolutely. So
that's what she told you anyway.
Yes.
All right, so we have the spice whiskey. Let's try this.
You want to try that? I'll pass it down here. So vanilla, the world's number one spice, is naturally found in oak wood to begin with. So what we're trying to do is have people look for vanilla in whiskey with this brand. Shall we cheers?
Cheers.
Cheers. Whew! I associate whiskey with making a scrunched up face. Although I'm not sure I got the taste of the vanilla. I better try that again.
Now, I like to say on this one, I guess it's the Canadian thing to say, is English toffee, French vanilla as kind of the tasting notes on this brand.
Sorry, give me that again. I was so busy focusing on the burning sensation in my throat, I didn't get that.
What I like to often describe as the tasting note on this brand is English toffee, French vanilla. I suppose that's the Canadian thing to do. Yeah.
All right. let's go on to the next one, shall we?
Try some single malt Scotch next. So this is the Glenlivet 12-year-old. This is the youngest single malt that we make. And so this has been aged 12 years in predominantly used American oak or ex-bourbon barrels. So this is going to be a very light and approachable style of whiskey. There's no peat used in this, so you won't have that big smokiness that people often associate with Scotch. This is much more delicate, and I think you should find it very approachable. And this is a great whiskey for people who are new to single malt Scotch. Go ahead and we'll get a good nose on this as well before you try it.
Okay. So getting a good nose means just to sniff it.
Give it a smell, yeah. I actually like to smell with my mouth open. It's a little bit more of a complete a sense of the aromas. If you just purse your lips a little bit and smell like that, something to try.
Okay.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
It's a tough job we have, eh?
Yeah, I don't know how you guys get up in the morning.
I get up for whiskey.
I also have a second shot of that. Now, do you drink it most of the time? And maybe you can answer this one. Do you drink it most of the time straight? Do you drink it with mix on the rocks?
It's a really good question. There's no one way to drink whiskey. And people, you got people that are called purists that will only have it neat or straight up, and they're wrong. There's no one, it's whatever you want yourself, and it's a great thing about whiskey. You can appreciate every different whiskey in whatever way you want. If I had to be honest, I think if you're trying a whiskey for the first time, to get the most flavor and the actual taste that they're going for, you should try whiskey at room temperature and by itself, so neat. Also, I'd always recommend, if you're trying a whiskey for the first time, to put in a teardrop size of water, a couple of drops of water, because that can actually open up new flavors and tastes. And then, however people want to drink whiskey, with Jameson, honestly, like a Jameson and ginger ale is incredible. Slice of lime at the top, it's really good. How I usually drink my whiskey is either I have some neat, I'd have some with maybe 1 cube of ice or 2 cubes of ice. I put a lot of water into my whiskey sometimes. It's just, every whiskey's different, and that's something that people get on their own journey to discover how they want to drink whiskey themselves. So there's no one right way, okay? And so if anyone tells you to drink whiskey in one way, they're wrong, okay? So enjoy it yourself.
Let's try the third one.
Well,
That's okay. Okay, and what's this one?
So this is Jameson Irish whiskey. We've been distilling since 1780. John Jameson is a very famous person in Ireland. So I'm going to tell you something here now. It's quite a secret, but John Jameson's actually Scottish, okay? Yeah, don't tell anyone. But he is Scottish, but he came over to Ireland and he started distilling in Ireland. And the one major difference that he did is that he triple distilled. So when you distill
What does
something...
that mean?
Yeah, so when you distill something, basically you're getting rid of, when you distill something, it's like the alcohol evaporating and you condense it again. So it's just a way of creating better alcohol, basically. Okay. So when you distill 3 times, what we're trying to get across is that we're a very smooth alcohol. Most scotches are distilled twice, and then most bourbons are distilled once. Weiser's is distilled...
A number of different ways.
I know, very different.
We distill either with column stills to make a light base whiskey, which was the typical style of the Canadian whiskeys. If you go back in the history of Canadian whiskey, when they looked at it, they were competing against moonshiners in early Canada. And what these guys developed is the column stills distillations, and J.P. Weiser was a key influencer of that. And hence we got light style Canadian whiskeys that have a little bit of rye in it as a Canadian whiskey style. Whereas the Irish whiskey and Scottish whiskey would use barley as their main grain ingredients for their whiskey. So each of these brands have their own different nuance to it by changing the grain, how it's distilled, and how it's aged.
At the same time, it's still incredible how much all these 3 brands, all these bottles of whiskey in front of us are made very similarly, but there's just one major difference between them. But Jameson is just an easy to drink, smooth Irish whiskey. It's got a nice hint of vanilla at the end of it, and then there's a bit of caramel as well on the tongue with it, those toasted oak notes as well. So what we say back in Ireland is slánta, which means cheers basically back in Ireland. So slánta.
you guys have a lot of hair on the back of your throats?
I may have had at one time. It's all been burned off now.
Yeah. Whew.
So what you think?
Yeah. I feel pretty.
You are pretty. We'll put it there.
It does make you stronger, more intelligent, and more attractive to the opposite sex.
Yeah.
That's why we drink it.
I look forward to fighting off the chicks like crazy later on.
Are you coming to the Whiskey Festival this weekend?
I think so. I think I have to now.
Oh, you have to.
Absolutely, yeah.
So there's a lot to experience there, and the different styles of whiskey. And like I said, just a little change can make a biggest difference in the world to each of the whiskeys you try.
Yeah,
And of course, when I said chicks, I meant women.
of course.
So, okay, I want to ask you too, Don, because Weiser's has a very mainstream branding campaign, and you guys would be known out there just for the commercials where you've got guys doing something that's just kind of a guyish, and then you got the 4 or 5 guys sitting there clapping for them. Yeah, you must get a lot. You must get a lot of positive reinforcement from those commercials.
Yeah, me as a master blender, absolutely I do. I know when I do a lot of the bottle signings, people want me to say "Welcome to the Weiserhood" on their bottles and stuff like that, and it's about the principles that J.P. Weiser himself laid down, and it's about those uncompromising principles where you've seen the TV commercials where they put the guy in the a touchy situation, but they never compromise on what their principles are, and so and that's how we believe with the Weiser's whiskey. We never compromise. I'm the guy that makes the formulas for it. We never compromise. We use the premium oak, rye and grains, and we age it for an extensive amount of period. And I believe that, and the Weiserhood campaign shows that to it.
All right, now we have a 4th one to sample also, right? What's this one?
This is Weiser's Deluxe. This is our flagship brand.
Thank you.
Weiser's is the #1 whiskey family in Canada. And this brand here is an authentic formula that J.P. Weiser himself had worked on. It is a lighter style Canadian whiskey, and with Canadian whiskey, it's all about the blending. So what we choose to do is we put the premium grains and wood in our product. So it is double distilled light whiskey with rye grain added into it, and rye gives you that spicy bouquet to it. Okay, barley gives you a nutty character to whiskey. Rye gives you that spicy character. So it's a little bit of nuance. It's what Canada does very well. It's what we bring to the whiskey category worldwide. Okay, so it's going to be a lighter whiskey with a hint of rye spice to it. Okay.
Shalanta. Whew. I'm going to get a lot of grief from people back at the office for this sort of assignment.
It's a great assignment.
Yeah, this is okay.
It's definitely something that you grow to. Whiskey. Whiskey is definitely something that you grow to. I was the exact same as you, trying whiskey for the first time. Stealing it from my dad's case back when I was 16, 17 years old. But like it is something that you have to appreciate. And one amazing thing that's happening in the world these days, and especially with young people, is that they're not picking quantity anymore. It's all about quality these days. And there's an incredible amount of young people that are drinking whiskey at the moment because they actually appreciate what they're tasting. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day. Whiskey appreciation takes a couple of months to understand what you're tasting and get those flavors and get that value that it's trying to offer. One thing that I will say about whiskey, and this is what really what I love about the whole idea of whiskey, is that you can look at vodkas and you can look at beers and you can look at all these ones, but every single bottle of whiskey has usually at least 3 to 4 years of care put into it. So this isn't a bottle that is just taken off a shelf. This is 4 or 5 years worth of actual effort and people going through their paces just to create this. So it's not something that's made in 3 weeks or 2 weeks. There's a lot of care and a lot of love given to every bottle of whiskey, which is just something that's incredible, and I think they should be appreciated for that.
I can feel the love.
Yeah. And each of these distilleries has a large piece of history and a great story attached to it, and they all come from real humble beginnings. And when you do your research and as you get to know your favorite brands, you sort of discover these stories, and it makes the whole experience really interesting, I think. Okay.
I would add to it now that globally whiskey has made a resurgence. I can speak for all three of these distilleries. We're busier than ever. I've been in the distillery now for 18 years, and I've never seen the amount of volume of whiskey that we're making like we have today.
Now, you guys are off shortly to do an event at one of the MLCCs. But before you go, just tell me real quick about what you guys will be doing at the Winnipeg Whisky Festival tomorrow night at the Fairmont.
I've been given the chance to do a VIP tasting with Wiser's brands, and what I've set up, and it's going to be an inaugural event for me, is actually I'm going to teach somebody how to blend whiskey. So I've got stuff right from the cask, and I'm going to have all the different blends here, and I'm going to show you how one of our brands, Wiser's Legacy, is made and blended today. So you're going to do my job right there at the Whisky Festival.
And Keith and Owen, what are you guys doing?
We're going to be doing consumer-based tastings as well, and I'm going to be doing a master class. So we'll have the entire range of Glenlivet whiskeys from 12 right up to 21, and we'll do a sit-down tasting and get to talk sort of in a smaller group, in a very more intimate setting, tell the story of the Glenlivet distillery and the great minds behind its inception almost 200 years ago now.
Okay.
I'll be doing the exact same as Keith, to be perfectly honest. Showcasing some of our more higher end brands. Giving consumers a chance to talk to us as ambassadors and learn a bit about whiskey, just like you did today. So if anyone's listening, please come to the Winnipeg Festival. We'll take care of you as much as possible, okay? And that's pretty much it there from us.
And we should say, while we've talked about rookies here, people who are who have a long time appreciation of whiskey are certainly more than welcome to come out tomorrow night also.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, they'll be there to try new things, and these brands always have new products coming to the market, and so there's always something new to try at any of these festivals.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right, well, Don Livermore, Keith Trussler, and Owen Durham, thanks so much for coming by the Winnipeg Free Press News Cafe, and we'll see you tomorrow night at the Winnipeg Whisky Festival at the Fairmont Hotel, 7 to 10 p.m.
Perfect. Thanks for having us.